From the National Newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm Don Mitchell. A residential school survivor who was part of an Indigenous delegation 3 years ago that met with Pope Francis for an apology is thanking the institution for returning some historic Indigenous artifacts. A joint statement by the Holy See and Canadian Conference of Catholic Bishops says the return of 62 items from the Vatican Museum's ethnographic collection was initiated by the late Francis as part of his 2022 papal visit to Canada. Today, Wilton Littlechild, who served as commissioner for the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, thanked Leo and the Catholic people for continuing the reconciliation journey. BC's New Democrats are holding their annual convention in Victoria this weekend with about 400 different resolutions coming before members. Premier David Eby believes good ideas always come from these conventions.
The unique thing about our conference is it is a chance for people to bring forward ideas that actually do become government policy. It was an NDP convention that advanced the proposal that the government should be covering the costs of birth control for people in British Columbia. And that is something that became an election commitment and was actually delivered for people in our province.
Eby's leadership of the party is also up for mandatory review this weekend. Here, 93% 2 years ago, but his government has created some friction recently with unions, First Nations, and environmentalists. Meanwhile, the Parti Québécois leader wants Quebec to have its own currency in the event it becomes an independent country. Paul St. Pierre Plamondon made the remark at a news conference to kick off the PQ Council today. The PQ has been riding high in the polls for 2 years, and St. Pierre Plamondon insists he will hold a referendum in his first term if he's able to form government in October next year. A pilot has died after an accident involving two small airplanes in eastern Ontario earlier today. Provincial police say officers were called to a report that two airplanes had possibly collided north of Martintown in South Glengarry just after 11 a.m. local time. They say one plane had landed safely while another was found in a wooded area. The sole occupant of the latter aircraft was pronounced dead at the scene. Police say the Transportation Safety Board of Canada is taking over the investigation. The Federal Aviation Administration in the U.S. says starting today it's easing flight restrictions from 6% down to 3% as air traffic control systems start approaching back to normal status following the government shutdown. ABC's Alex Prochet has more.
These 3% reduction in flights, it's going to be carried out at those 40 major airports across the country. But still, this is a step in the right direction, especially as we head closer to the holidays.
That 3% reduction in flights will remain in place at 40 airports across the country. And an atmospheric river has hit Southern California, creating risks of flash floods in fire-ravaged areas and forcing the National Weather Service to urge people to stay indoors. The NWS in Los Angeles and Oxnard says rainfall was as heavy as 2.5 centimeters per hour in coastal areas that are prone to flash flooding. This is the Canadian Press. In sports, the Vancouver Rise rallied for a dramatic 2-1 comeback win over AFC Toronto in today's weather-delayed Northern Super League final. Toronto squandering many first-half chances, which kept Vancouver in the game before an announced crowd of just over 12,000 at BMO Field. AFC outshooting the Rise 16-8 and going into the break up 1-0. A lightning warning forced the players off the field in the 38th minute, with spectators taking shelter in the concourses. Meanwhile, the federal government has committed up to $5.45 million to support the Northern Super League and help grow women's professional soccer in Canada. Ottawa, which has started discussions with the first-year league to assess its needs, says the funding is to deliver transformative upgrades for facilities used by the league across the country. In the NHL, New Jersey Devils leading scorer Jack Hughes is expected to be out 2 months after undergoing surgery to repair a finger injury. And the Toronto Raptors will go for their third straight win tonight when they visit the Indiana Pacers in NBA action. From the Canadian Press, I'm Don Mitchell.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. For more of today's top stories, visit thecanadianpressnews.ca.